merciful, gracious God allow such things as this? And this is just one man. We could go on and on about all the natural disasters, the millions, untold millions of people who have died at the hands of nature. Tsunamis, hurricanes, and just earthquakes and things that just happen naturally. And people have to pay the price for that. And there are those natural disasters. And then with our own physical bodies, cancer, and just leukemia, and all of those horrific sicknesses that even little children die from. It's just, there are so many stories that are just heart-wrenching, sad, difficult to try to understand. I want to share with you again, we have a couple about 5, 6, 7 years ago maybe, over in Washington County, Hagerstown, Maryland, whose son was killed in one of those ATVs. Came up over a mountain, and him and his friend, he was going back over to his friend's house, and they met, and they head-on collided and killed this one boy. And today, because of anguish of heart and sorrow, mom and dad, as happens, the parents are now divorced. People just can't come to grips with God. Why would God allow my son to die in such a horrible way? And there's just story after story after story. This is why this book is so valuable. Study this man. Look at what God is trying to say. Get God's perspective on life. Job prefers to die. Why do I have to live when I prefer death? That seems to be where he's coming from. And he is just simply saying, it just would have been better if I had never been born. And I've talked to people like that. Maybe you've met people like that. Maybe it's somewhere in your own life you have thoughts like, you've had thoughts like that. Man, why was I ever born? Job again curses the day of his birth, and again he uses a variety of those expressions as he's declaring his death with sorrow. And there are some other things we see here in chapter 3, and it's interesting that he sort of just wished that, like for me, it would be like, I just wish that July 22nd would just vanish from the calendar. In essence, that's what Job is expressing. That's what he's saying. He just wished that the day of his birth would just be removed from the calendar. Just don't recognize his day of birth. And he says, actually, let it be a day of gloom. Let it be a day of gloom, and let it be a day of just darkness. This is what he is expressing. And basically what he is saying, life should have ended before he was born. That's exactly what he is saying. And that's pretty, that's quite an expression to hear this man say. Life should have ended before I was ever born. Now again, it is clear Job is not the only person who has ever expressed these kind of thoughts. Many, many people down through the ages have had very similar expressions, because life is life happens, and there are many people who identify with the words of Job. Here's something else, because of my reading, here's something else that I wanted to share with you and make sure that we're clear. And I, for the most part, I'm sure this audience is. But there are those who think, because of the way he words things here, that Job talking about ending his life, I want to make it perfectly clear that Job, the book of Job, right here in chapter 3, the book of Job is not teaching suicide. Or for that fact, he is not condoning mercy killing. You remember Jack Kevorkian? Goes back a ways, doesn't it? Okay? The book of Job is not condoning such actions. Job is not talking about suicide. He's not talking about ending his life. He's just expressing his sorrow. And then he's giving his view of death. But in no way is this book trying to support suicide. And I think you see that. I think that's pretty clear. And then we just read here in verses 20 through 26, again, the expressions that are used here about death. He says it's just a time to lay down and be quiet, because that's what death is. He says it's time to sleep, it's time to rest from weariness. And many people have those expressions. It's Sheol. It's a place where the wicked can't bother me. They can't trouble me. It's a place where we're all together, both groups, everybody, kings and princes and counselors and just people. We're all together. It's in the same place. And so it seems to be talking about this equality in death. It doesn't matter what you were when you were alive. When you're in Sheol, everybody's on the same level. And he seems to be expressing that. And so Job, again, this chapter, Job is expressing his depth of sorrow as he opens his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. That's what chapter 3 is simply all about. And then again in verses 20 through 26, Job took no action to end his own life. And I think that's clear. Okay, life was given to him. You remember when God gave instructions to Satan? Okay, yes, you can touch him. Yeah, remove the hedge that I put around him. But God said, do not lay a finger on him initially, and then the second time around, spare his life. And so Job still has life. He's given life because evidently God is allowing this, but he still has life even in spite of all the misery and the sorrow that he's experiencing. That to me is quite clear. So Job is just simply questioning why life is given to somebody who in essence would prefer death. And as you well know, many people fear death. I have a sister who we have had several discussions about dying and death, and she is absolutely terrified of death. Many people fear death. Job gives some more descriptions in these verses 20 through 26. Bitter in soul. Think about, he said, the thing that I dreaded, the thing that I feared the most that would happen, happened. It happened to me. And you hear that all the time from people, even in this day and age. And then this longing for death. But it never comes. He continues to live and live and live in spite and living with all of this pain and sorrow and misery. And then he rejoices, and he said he would rejoice exceedingly and be glad when he did in fact find the grave. And then he searched for death. And he searched for death. He longed for death. He's looking for death more than what? Hidden treasure. Anguish of sorrow from Job. And then, according to Job, that life is a constant reminder. Life, just living day to day to day to day, was a constant reminder of pain and affliction and sorrow and adversity. And this is how he expresses it. And sometimes